I know that look. Your tanks are low. Your sources of inspiration are depleted. Confecting new ideas is laborious. Maybe it's winter during a pandemic and you are fully 100% losing it. Hey friend, hey. May I suggest an art book in these trying times? What makes for a good art book? Well, of course, this is plenty subjective, but the content and the way that it's put together makes a huge difference. For instance, I would rank a book that simply compiles all of the existing, very familiar, publicly seen art or assets from something into a book, and that's it, very low. Like, no one wants you just printing out the existing game or movie. We've seen that. But an art book that shows process, that shows iterations and where the creators thought about going, especially in visual development, makes a book really valuable. Some of these books even talk about the technical process in an insightful way too. And no matter what, good art is good art, and looking at good art is good looking. But buying art books can be a little dicey sometimes, since you aren't so sure what's inside after spending a decent amount of money. So, as someone who has grabbed quite a few art books and written them off as business expenses, here's 5 art of books that I've really absolutely loved. Real quick, long time since we've done something like this. Do you mind commenting on either what your favorite art book is, and or, since I know for a lot of people there's a book or something that they remember as being one of the first big catalysts for getting them into art, what was that thing? Obviously, on one hand, this is very clear, transparent things that help the YouTube video do well, but I'd really like to see what that kind of discussion generates. So for number 1, I'm going to put 2 books together, and that's mainly because they're made by the same team in a short span of time, and the subject matter has the same goal. These are the Spyro Reignited Trilogy and Crash Bandicoot 4 art books. Editorial note, I'm friends with some of the folks making work in these books, and you can even watch my interviews with them, but even without that personal bias, these are really top-notch, incredible books. Both of them deal with updating an old PlayStation game character to the modern day, and all of the baggage that comes with appeasing fans, finding the core and tone of the originals, and ever so slightly changing things for the better if it's called for. There was so much art created for these games, and you're seeing a big chunk of it here. It's not just the promo art or stills from the game just printed out. And what you see is absolutely gorgeous. Even if you haven't played the games, these books are absolutely worth it. For number 2, we're going with The Art of Nausicaa and the Valley of the Wind. Nausicaa is a really unique situation because it's obviously a passion project of Miyazaki. It's something that he personally drew as a manga and directed as a film. So this book focuses on the film, obviously, but the insight in here has a ton of depth. It collects character design, illustration, cells from the film, watercolor art by Miyazaki, even notes on the camera rig and tech that they used. All art done pre-computers and totally traditionally. This is something really valuable to independent creators working on stories, and hey, I didn't even say a single word about how visually rich Nausicaa is. Number 3, this one is a bit different from the rest. Instead of functioning as strictly an art of book, this is one told and made by a character in-universe. It's The Wanderer's Journal from Hollow Knight. The art in this book is technically re-illustrated for the book, but because it's assembled the way that it is, it gives context to where the creatures are from and tons of little lore drops, again from a possibly unreliable narrator in the form of the Wanderer. As a fan, it's a really fun book. If you aren't one, it's probably less of a must-grab, especially since it's a little harder to get, but definitely an example of lore dumps done right. So for number 4, we're doing 4 books. 4 books all at once. So the 5 in the title is, there's now 5 additional books in the lineup. All 4 of these books are from Nintendo games, but the way that they're presented is very different. The Art of Splatoon and Splatoon 2 is something that I haven't said yet, which is a visual menagerie. It collects everything that needed to be collected for these games, character design and world building, and more specifically fashion and architecture. The in-game logos and brands all have their visual development here, and in general, this really distinct art style that Splatoon has is on full display. The Kirby Art and Style collection is more like a walk through history with the Poyo himself. Not only does this include art from the games, but things like merchandise and the branding for the Japanese Kirby Cafe. You don't get a ton of behind-the-scenes work, but because it's decades of history, that's easy to let slide. Last but not least is a book that gives you way more than you'd expect by way of iteration, behind-the-scenes looks, and concepts. That's in The Art of Super Mario Odyssey. What's so great about this is that it really helped me appreciate a lot of that Mario stuff that you might take for granted. And the sheer amount in here is like almost refreshingly non-Nintendo. Number 5. So you know how you're watching The Mandalorian and the credits come on and there's those beautiful illustrations? Yeah, those are in The Art of the Mandalorian. So is a ton of concept art and production design and character design and costume design. This is the only book on here that deals with live action production. And I think that's a great reminder of how powerful an effect concept art and illustration can be on something that ends up integrated into live action. Plus, the groundbreaking use of the volume just opens up crazy avenues of possibility with filming and is great to learn about. So hey, what would this video about 5 books that had 5 books tacked onto it be without a couple of honorable mentions? The Art of Cuphead has a great breakdown of some of the pencils and their process in this literally hand-animated game. The Art of the Iron Giant is also a little harder to find and older, and it has some great art, albeit somewhat comparatively sparse compared to some of the other books on this list. The same goes for The Art of Star Wars Rebels. Not a ton of extraneous art, but great if you're a fan anyway. Again, I would love to hear what some of your favorite art books are down below, just things that kind of get those creative sparks flying. My course Learn Character Design you can find at learncharacterdesign.com, comprehensive character design curriculum, and you can get Biko's backpack over on patreon.com/BiggleDenizen, where you can find new original art every month in your mailbox from me. I'm at BiggleDenizen on Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, and TikTok. Thank you so much for watching, and have fun creating.